If you happen to be feeling blue because you feel like a loose cannon, fear not, because I happen to like the cut of your jib. Perhaps if you have a square meal, by and large, you might avoid being 3 sheets to the wind. And if you know the ropes, don't cut and run, because you might be above board without being taken aback. Learn more about the origins of words and phrases that come from the nautical world on this episode of Everything Everywhere Daily. This episode is sponsored by ButcherBox. Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and that means Thanksgiving dinner for friends and family. A Thanksgiving dinner can be a massive ordeal and a nerve-wracking affair. You have to buy all the food and spend the better part of a day preparing everything before serving it. So, why not take one thing off your plate by letting ButcherBox take care of the centerpiece of your Thanksgiving meal, the turkey? Not only will ButcherBox deliver the turkey directly to your door, but they will also offer some of the highest quality turkeys that you can find. Their turkeys are never given antibiotics or hormones, and they're all certified to be raised humanely. And in addition to turkey, they also have ham, beef, and seafood if that's what you prefer. New ButcherBox members that sign up using my link will receive their choice between a whole turkey, turkey breast, or a spiral ham, plus $20 off when they visit butcherbox.com/daily and enter code DAILY at checkout. Once again, that's butcherbox.com/daily, code DAILY at checkout.
This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com.
A while back, I did an episode on the origins of words and phrases which came from the military. And in the process of doing so, I realized that a shocking number of them came from the Navy. This actually makes sense. Sailors on a ship would spend months or years with a small number of men in very close quarters. They developed a shorthand way of speaking that everyone understood, and they often referenced life on board a ship. As sailors moved from ship to ship, these phrases became part of the common language for all seamen. As they visited various ports and returned home, they took their way of talking with them, and many of their expressions became part of the English language. Several of them became so embedded into English that most people have no idea of their origin. So let's start with one that's a pretty obvious naval reference, which is the term loose cannon. Today, when someone's called a loose cannon, it means that they're unpredictable or reckless. The phrase comes from the cannons found on a naval vessel. Cannons were made of iron and were extremely heavy. Moreover, they were on wheels, so they could be moved to load the cannon and then back into position. Ships were constantly moving on the high seas, and oftentimes they were moving quite a lot from a storm when there were swells. As such, cannons had to be secured so they wouldn't move around. When a cannon got loose, it was a very dangerous thing. Hundreds of pounds of iron could cause a lot of damage, and because of the ship's movement, they were very unpredictable. Hence the term loose cannon. One phrase that you might not have realized was a nautical term is by and large. The phrase by and large has its roots in sailing terminology. In the context of sailing, large meant that when the wind was coming from behind the ship, it was allowing it to sail smoothly with a favorable tailwind. When a ship was sailing large, it was essentially moving forward with the wind pushing it from the rear. By, however, referred to sailing close by the wind or sailing into the wind at an angle. This was more challenging as it required the crew to tack or to adjust the sails carefully to maintain control and avoid being pushed backwards. So to sail by and large meant that a ship could sail in nearly all wind conditions, whether the wind was favorable from behind or blowing at an angle from the side. Over time, this phrase evolved into its current meaning, which means in general or on the whole. The phrase son of a gun traces back to British naval slang and life on ships in the 17th and 18th centuries. During long voyages, even though it was usually against the rules, Some sailors were allowed to bring their wives or female companions on board. When these women gave birth at sea, the limited space on the ships meant that the birth sometimes took place between the rows of cannons on a gun deck. If the identity of a child's father was uncertain, then the child was often jokingly referred to as a son of a gun. While it originally was sort of synonymous with the word bastard, today son of a gun is generally used in an informal, sometimes affectionate tone to refer to a person, especially one who is a bit mischievous or spirited. The phrase pipe down comes from ships where it refers to a specific signal given by a bosun's pipe, a high-pitched whistle used to convey orders on board a ship. The bosun's pipe was essential for giving clear commands that could be heard above the noise of the sea and crew activity. At the end of the day, when it was time for sailors to go below deck and quiet down for the night, the bosun would blow a particular signal on the pipe known as piping down. In modern usage, piping down means to be quiet or stop making noise, and it retains the connotation of an authoritative command to lower the volume, very similar to the original bosun's whistle. The phrase, "let the cat out of the bag," is thought to originate from a couple of historical sources, with the most popular theory rooted in maritime discipline. On naval ships, a cat o' nine tails was a type of whip with 9 knotted cords used as a form of punishment for sailors. The cat was kept in a bag, and when it was taken out, it meant that punishment was imminent. Revealing the cat o' nine tails, or letting the cat out of the bag, was a dramatic moment signaling that somebody was going to get whipped. Today, the phrase, "let the cat out of the bag," means to reveal a secret or a hidden truth, sometimes unintentionally. The phrase, "three sheets to the wind," originally referred to the condition of a ship's sails, or sheets. In nautical terms, a sheet is the rope or line used to control a sail's angle to the wind. When a sail's sheet is loose or improperly secured, it flaps wildly, making the sail ineffective, causing the ship to lose stability and control. The phrase was originally 3 sheets in the wind, and later became 3 sheets to the wind. Having 3 sheets loose would cause the ship to stagger and wobble in the water, much like a drunken person who would stumble while trying to walk. Sailors began to use this term to describe someone who was very drunk, as they would be out of control and unsteady, just like a ship with loose sails. Today, 3 sheets to the wind means that someone is heavily intoxicated. The phrase "hand over fist" originally referred to the actions of sailors quickly pulling in or climbing ropes. When hauling in a rope or line, sailors would pull with one hand and then quickly grasp further along with their other hand, effectively moving hand over fist in a continuous, efficient motion. This allowed them to gather a rope quickly, which was essential for tasks like adjusting sails or bringing in a catch. Over time, the phrase took on a metaphorical meaning, and today, hand over fist implies gaining something quickly and consistently, much as a sailor would make swift progress by moving one hand in front of the other. The phrase "feeling blue" also has some origin in maritime tradition. On old sailing ships, particularly in the British and American navies, it was customary to fly blue flags and sometimes even paint a blue band along the hull of a ship if the captain or another significant crew member had died during the voyage. This blue color signified to others that the crew was in mourning upon their return to the port. Over time, feeling blue became associated with feelings of sadness, loss, or melancholy. The word scuttlebutt refers to the cask of drinking water kept on ships. On sailing vessels, the butt was the large barrel or cask that held the water supply, and scuttle means to make a hole in something. So a scuttlebutt was a water barrel with a hole cut in it to allow sailors to dip and drink. The scuttlebutt was also a good gathering place where sailors would congregate, take a break, and exchange news or gossip. As a result, scuttlebutt became associated not only with the water cask itself, but also the informal exchange of rumors and information that happened around it. In the modern usage, scuttlebutt means gossip, rumors, or informal talk, reflecting the same tradition of sailors sharing news and stories around a water barrel. The phrase "taken aback" was a reference to when the wind shifts suddenly and blows directly into a ship's sails from the front, which can cause the sails to backfill, meaning that they're abruptly forced backwards against the mast. This unexpected shift stops the ship or makes it move erratically, catching the crew off guard. In extreme cases, it could even throw the ship off balance, creating a sudden jarring effect. The experience of being taken aback by the wind was used figuratively by sailors to describe a feeling of shock or surprise. Today, taken aback means being caught off guard, startled, or surprised by something unexpected, much like a ship is when the wind abruptly changes direction. The phrase above board has to do with ships as well. In maritime terms, board refers to the deck of a ship. If something was done above board, it meant that it was happening openly on the deck where everyone could see it. Honest and reputable ship captains or crews conducted their business in plain sight, above the deck or above the board, to show that there was nothing hidden or deceitful. By contrast, pirates or those with dishonest intentions often hid below deck or engaged in underhanded activities out of sight, leading to suspicion. Over time, above board came to signify openness, honesty, and transparency, suggesting that everything's being done visibly and without deception. And speaking of boards, the phrase on board literally referred to being physically on the deck of a ship or inside the ship's hull. In maritime terminology, anybody who was on board was part of the crew or passengers currently present on the vessel. Over time, this phrase expanded in meaning, and it came to refer to agreeing to be a part of a team, project, or venture in the same way that someone could commit to joining the crew of a ship. Today, to be on board with something means to be aligned or supportive of an idea or plan. The phrase cut and run refers to a situation when a ship needed to leave anchorage quickly, often due to danger or an urgent need to escape. In such cases, rather than taking the time to haul up the anchor in the usual way, sailors would cut the anchor line and allow the ship to sail away immediately. This cutting and running was an emergency measure, sacrificing the anchor but saving the ship and the crew from a potentially hazardous situation. Over time, cut and run evolved into a phrase meaning to leave a situation quickly, especially to avoid trouble or difficulty. The phrase cut of your jib originates from the shape or style of a ship's jib sail. The jib is the triangular sail set at the front of a sailing ship, extending from the bow to the top of the mast. In the age of sails, ships from different nations often had distinct cuts or styles for their jib sails, making it possible to identify a vessel's nationality or allegiance from a distance. Sailors and naval officers would evaluate the cut of a jib to determine if a ship was friend or foe before it was close enough to see other identifiable markings. Over time, the cut of one's jib shifted to refer more broadly to a person's general appearance, character, or manner. When someone comments on the cut of your jib, they're evaluating your overall style, demeanor, or presence, much like sailors judged a ship's identity by the shape of its sails. I'll close with the phrase, wide berth. Wide berth refers to the way ships anchor or maneuver near each other. In nautical terms, a berth is a safe distance maintained between vessels or between a ship and obstacles such as docks, rocks, or shorelines. To give a wide berth means anchoring or navigating with plenty of space around the ship to ensure safety and avoid collisions, especially in busy or risky waters. Today, to give a wide berth means to avoid close contact or interaction with someone or something that might be unpleasant, difficult, or dangerous. There are a shockingly large number of phrases in English that come from ships and seafarers. Much of this has to do with the fact that England was a seafaring country at the same time when modern English was being developed. These sailors, without even trying, managed to create a vibrant part of the English language which is still used today. The executive producer of Everything Everywhere Daily is Charles Daniel. The associate producers are Benji Long and Cameron Kieffer. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who supports the show over on Patreon, including the show's producers. Your support helps me put out a show every single day. And also, Patreon is currently the only place where Everything Everywhere Daily merchandise is available to the top tier of supporters. If you'd like to talk to other listeners of the show and members of the Completionist Club, you can join the Everything Everywhere Daily Facebook group or Discord server. Links to everything are in the show notes.